Ladies and gentlemen, the Senior Director of the McCain Institute, Ambassador Michael C. Polt.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the McCain Institute and our very first symposium encompassing 4 cohorts of the McCain Institute's Next Generation Leaders program. We have termed the symposium this year Global Leadership Symposium, Embracing Disruption. I'd like to show you a brief video of some of the disruption that is being caused in a very positive and creative sense by some of our next generation leaders from around the world. And we'll start with that and take it from there. So let's run that video, please.
I think that the values and the ethics play an important role in terms that will help me in Colombia to promote a better culture of business. So this is the very important role in the future for me.
My leadership action plan is to transform rural India through empowering women politically, socially and economically. I will work with the women collectives by reducing economic as well as gender-based poverty.
When I go back to Estonia, I plan to start a venture philanthropy foundation there to promote individual giving and to support cutting-edge non-profit organizations in scaling up their social impact.
My leadership vision is based on ethics and values. I'm going to make Georgia more friendly for disability community by making my organization more sustainable and transparent.
I'm from Bhutan, which is one of the youngest democracies in the world. One word I would say is leadership is about action, going out and doing something. And I hope that I can go back home and take all the skills, the experiences of the past year and serve my country and people.
We know who we are, we know what we've been through, but it's that time in between that I think is what is still in question and what we're all trying to better clarify for ourselves and determine, how do we reach that end point as a character and service-driven leader. And this program has really enabled us to think more critically about the how part, really zone in on what those steps will look like in order for us to keep climbing that ladder and get to that end goal.
A little taste of what our next generation leaders are up to around the world. So 4 years into the beginning of our program, as you saw, 33 countries later, 44 next generation leaders, 37 of whom are here with us today. Most of them had not met each other. When one cohort leaves Washington at the end of their time in a program year with us, the next cohort has not arrived yet. There's usually about a week difference where our exhausted team goes ahead and sleeps for a few hours, and then we go ahead and pick it back up again with the next cohort. So we were delighted on Sunday evening when, for the first time, all 4 cohorts, 13, 14, 15, and 2016, were together in a room here in the hotel and met each other. And the energy in the room was palpable and showed the importance not just of leadership throughout the world, but the connectivity among these leaders that helps drive their leadership action plans. So today's title of Disruptive Technologies, Embracing Disruption, focuses on disruptive technologies, disruptive activities, changing things, doing away with old ways of doing things and finding new ways to attack the challenges of our era. And with that, we're going to be discussing today leadership in a variety of different categories, from civil society leadership to political leadership to business and youth leadership to women's empowerment. And we have wonderful panels up here that will be discussing these issues. But to kick us off today, since we're talking about embracing disruption, we have a great friend and professional who has accompanied the work of our institute throughout the beginning of the McCain Institute so many years ago, and his name is Andrew Sugrue. Just a few words about Andrew. He's a principal with Shumway Capital, an investment firm located in Greenwich, Connecticut. He's a member of the advisory board of the Next Generation Leaders program, helping us each year in selecting our cohorts to participate in the program. He was named in 2013 New York Leader by the Foreign Policy Initiative and has previously served as a foreign policy advisor to Governor Romney's 2012 presidential campaign on Africa and human rights. He's going to address and solve all the issues dealing with disruptive technologies and the future of work. Andrew Sugrue.
Welcome. Thank you. Good morning. As Mike mentioned, my name is Andrew Sugrue, and I'm a private investor. I spend most of my time scouring the world for the next big idea, looking for business models that are disrupting existing industries or categories. And so first off, I'm honored to have been invited by the McCain Institute to speak to you today. I've been asked to discuss the future of work, which is a sufficiently broad topic for a 15-minute discussion. But I plan to share a couple observations, pose some questions, and unfortunately, I probably have more questions than I do have answers. So to start off, jobs, and specifically the loss of jobs, have been the defining topic of the past few years, and particularly this past election cycle here in the United States. One could argue that Donald Trump owes his election victory to his ability to tap into voters' frustration and fears about job losses. Yet while he successfully tapped into this voter anxiety, he had the wrong scapegoat when he blamed China, Mexico, and foreign competition. The real culprit is automation and technology, not foreign trade and competition. Of the 5 million U.S. manufacturing jobs lost since 2000, just 13% were due to trade. The remaining 87% were a result of automation. Now, before we get too apocalyptic, I should remind everyone that technological disruption has been a defining part of human existence from the beginning of time. While they do not sound like technologies in our current construct of new iPhones or virtual reality headsets, innovations like agriculture and animal husbandry were every bit as disruptive to the prevailing social order as autonomous vehicles or robotics will be. The resulting exponential increases in productivity per human that happened across generations allowed for the development of more complex societies based on the division of labor and trade. By breaking the pre-existing paradigm of you eat what you kill, slack opened in the labor market, which allowed individuals to pursue knowledge and further innovation. The Industrial Revolution was similarly disruptive as millions transitioned from jobs in fields to jobs in factories over the course of a 50-year period. Subsequent technologies like electrical lighting, indoor plumbing, motor vehicles, air travel, television, the internet, and mobile phones have contributed to make us more productive and improve our livelihoods. Each successive wave of technology destroyed old jobs and created new ones. In fact, each wave created entire new industries that would have been hard to imagine previously. For example, who would have imagined when Steve Jobs launched the first iPhone in 2007 that 2 years later the mobile phone would power a conveniently named mobility revolution with app-based transportation solutions such as Uber, Didi, Lyft, Via, and Juno that now have a collective $150 billion in market capitalization and millions of drivers employed. The challenge today is the speed of change is accelerated such that adaptation must occur within generations and even within decades rather than across generations as in prior periods. I believe we're on the cusp of another societal paradigm shift. In the coming years, the rate of technological innovation and disruption that we have witnessed so far will accelerate meaningfully. The general consensus has developed that low-skill jobs will soon be replaced by technology. And indeed, autonomous vehicle technology is already sufficient to perform long-haul highway trucking. You may not know that Uber's trucking subsidiary, Otto, is already shipping Budweiser beer across the country in autonomous trucks. Autonomy threatens to replace 3.5 million U.S. truck drivers who earn an average of $40,000 to $70,000 per year, which is a total of $150 billion in potential lost wages, which could displace 2.5% of the current U.S. workforce. While the technology and legal framework for low-speed city driving is still being developed, Uber has already deployed self-driving cars in cities such as Pittsburgh, and cities such as Singapore have fleets of autonomous taxis already on their streets. We are likely no more than 5 or so years away from fully autonomous Uber rides, which threatens another 1 million U.S. professional drivers. The potential job loss is even larger when factoring in impacts on related jobs such as insurance and repairs. What I find particularly astonishing about the example of Uber and this broader mobility shift is that an entire industry of employment could be created and destroyed within a period of just 15 years. Autonomous technology also threatens 4 million U.S. farming jobs. John Deere, for instance, now has tractors and other machinery capable of autonomously farming, including plowing fields, planting seeds, weeding, and providing precise amounts of water and nutrients to ensure maximal yields. Rising wages, as we reach full employment here in the United States, is having the perverse effect of accelerating the displacement of low-skilled labor, such as retail cashiers and food service workers. Restaurant chains in particular have experienced an average wage inflation of 20% over the past 5 years and have had an inability to pass on these increased costs onto budget-conscious consumers. So as a result, these chains are pursuing digital ordering strategies to reduce or eliminate human labor in many functions such as cashiers. McDonald's, for instance, has announced plans to roll out automated kiosks and mobile pay options at all of its U.S. stores, which could displace a large amount of its 1.5 million employees. Amazon has received significant press coverage for its plans to launch highly automated grocery stores that include automated checkout and require just 3 employees to operate an entire grocery store. So for context, a total of 8.5 million Americans are employed in retail sales, earning a total of $220 billion in annual income. Another 7 million Americans are employed in food service, with another $150 billion of income at risk. But I think it's important to note that technology will not only affect low-skilled labor. Some of the most highly skilled professions, such as medicine, will be impacted. Advances in deep learning and computer vision, for instance, which applies the same technology that you might have seen on your Facebook, when Facebook can tag a photo with all your friends without any of your input. They can leverage this same technology to tag X-rays and be more efficient and more accurate than the average radiologist. For now, these applications won't replace radiologists, but they'll allow them to do their jobs more quickly and make fewer mistakes. Another example is real estate agents. There's over 1 million U.S. real estate agents. And meta search engines like Zillow and Trulia, which I'm sure many of you have used, have changed the way consumers shop for homes. 99% of consumers today start their home buying process on one of these online portals rather than in the office of a real estate agent. And technology platforms are automating many of the processes that take up a real estate agent's time, such as coordinating showings and open houses. As these real estate agents become more efficient, they can handle more homes, leading to less need for as many real estate agents. It drives huge savings to consumers. Gone are the days of 6% real estate commissions, but so too are gone 750,000+ real estate agent jobs. And process automation will affect other fields, such as Wall Street traders and bank loan officers. Just look at what Lending Club has done to automating personal loan origination. And as business processes are increasingly automated, layers of middle management are being eliminated. So by our math just now, tens of millions of jobs are either at risk or likely to be replaced due to technological advancement. For context, losing just 7 million of these jobs without replacements would put U.S. unemployment back at the peaks of the Great Recession. Yet new jobs will be created. At the turn of the 20th century, for instance, who would have imagined the development of the sports entertainment industry with multiple professional sport leagues, 5, 6, 7 channels that cover 24 hours a day, professional sports, that came to occupy Americans' newly found leisure time? So as I said, we're nearing another paradigm shift, and it's the end of one job per individual. The question then is not whether technology will continue to upend all aspects of our life, but how we will react to it. How do we educate our people for this new reality? How do we transition and retrain those who have been displaced? How do we address income inequality and structural unemployment? The irony of this economic era is that it has never been quicker or cheaper for a college student to turn a great idea and a couple thousand lines of code into a multi-billion-dollar business. But at the same time, it has become harder than ever to achieve a more prosperous life through hard work alone, as the marginal value of labor has decreased. So without serious reforms, we risk becoming a society of the haves and have-nots, of the educated and employed versus the uneducated and unemployed. We need to educate a highly skilled workforce who are adaptable and innovative. We can no longer rely on teaching processes and teaching to the test. The value of a vocational training becomes much less powerful when we don't know what the vocations of the future are. Already, the average millennial changes jobs every 2 years, and I would expect this will increase for many generations. People are going to have many jobs across their career rather than one job as in prior years. And 40% of the U.S. workers today are already in contract-based jobs rather than traditional employees. As this percentage of workers increases, we'll need to restructure our healthcare and retirement models that today are employer-centric with models that more accurately reflect the increasing fluidity of the job market. But I would argue that we also need to reevaluate our overall social contract. From our founding as a nation, the American dream has stated that through hard work, i.e. manual labor, one could create a better quality of life for themselves and their families. And sadly, this may no longer be true in a highly automated world. If the paradigm of one job per individual indeed changes, how will we change our social safety net to deal with those left behind? The earned income tax credit, for instance, which is effectively negative taxation, has been celebrated on both sides of the aisle as a way to increase incomes among the least well-off while encouraging job participation. It's good policy for now, as studies show that aside from faith and family, the most important driver of personal happiness is having a fulfilling job. Some futurists argue that we may need to address the coming structural unemployment with radical concepts like universal basic income, which is effectively need-blind government payouts untied to work. But knowing what we know about the drivers of happiness, how do we ensure that our people have purpose rather than just sustenance? Technological disruption and the rise of these winner-take-all category-creating companies such as Google, Facebook, Amazon, Uber, and Airbnb mean that wealth in America will continue to barbell. Yet wealth disparity in itself is not necessarily bad so long as it's not structural. We should encourage entrepreneurs to turn their ideas into fantastic fortunes, but we should also ensure that capital does not become dynastic. How do we balance the need to ensure the capital does not become permanently concentrated in fewer hands while also structuring incentives to encourage innovation? Do we lower taxes on productive incomes while raising taxes on inheritance? Another one I was thinking about that's not in my preferred remarks, but having talked to a number of you, realizing that so many of these next generation leaders are from emerging nations. When you think about the global drivers of growth over the past 100 years, growth other than commodities has been driven by the search for incrementally cheaper labor. But in a world of further automation, how do we bring up the rest of the world if not for search of lower cost labor? So I don't really have a ton of answers to all these questions. That's what the next generation leaders are here to do. But I want you to take away a couple things. One is that technological disruption has been present throughout human history. Two, the pace of change is accelerating from across generations to within generations. Three, upcoming technological innovations threaten to render many low and high-skilled jobs totally obsolete. And four, these technological innovations present tremendous opportunities to increase the global standard of living. But these changes will present significant societal challenges. We need to proactively address reforms to our education system and social contract to address this new reality. So in a time where technological and societal disruption is increasing, I'm heartened by the fact that groups like the McCain Institute's Next Generation Leaders are working to come up with solutions. Thank you for having me here today.